May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be free from harm. May all beings love life. May all beings awaken. Welcome to another Cuke Audio podcast. I'm DC Poobah of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, preserving the legacy of Shunryu Suzuki and those whose paths crossed his, and anything else that comes to mind. I pray that you and yours are safe and comfortable, free from economic distress, able to get out and do whatever it is you want within the limitations of the universal precept of do as little harm as possible. So today we have a brief memory from Edward Brown, who was always Ed Brown. We always called him Ed, but then he decided he wanted to go Edward. Suzuki Roshi said to me, speaking of his shaking, if I'd known you were going to go on doing this so long, I'd never have let you get started. And one time, that was pretty nice for me. I was having trouble sitting still, and he came up to me in the Zendo when there wasn't much time left in the period and said, do kinhin. And I said, what? Because I had this idea like when you do zazen, you don't do kinhin. I said, what? And he said, do kinhin. And so I was really mad to have to do something different than everybody else. So I got up and did kinhin for a few minutes while everybody else was sitting. Another thing that was interesting for me was that exact period earlier on, I had thought, why don't I see what happens if I just go along with the movement instead of trying to stop it? So I was sitting there seeing if I could just go along with the movement, and he said, do kinhin. And then later on I went to him and I said, I was upset about you telling me to do kinhin, and one of the reasons is that I had just decided that period that I would try to find out about the movement and kind of go along with the movement instead of trying to stop it. And he said, oh, that's very good. In that case, that's okay then. That's very good. I'm so glad you told me. I had a feeling about him that comes from that kind of experience where he'd told me one thing, then I told him another, and he went, oh, like, if that's what you were doing. I didn't understand, and I was like, he didn't have to have been right to tell me to do kinhin like he knew that was the best thing for me to do or anything. He was just trying something. But then he was immediately willing to try something else. Oh. Yeah, Edward used to shake a lot in zazen, and I, during some of these times, sat next to him. And he would shake sometimes violently. And there was this wall in front of us that was made of like mountain stone, not river stone. It was the old Zendo. And some of the pieces in it were sort of sharp at the edges. And it was an old wall. It had been made like, I don't know. I'm not sure when, in the late 1800s or somewhere around there. I was worried he was going to bang his head on it. I've been worried I'm going to bang my head on it from falling asleep and just going forward, because I could go forward like one of those little birds that dips water, more and more and more. I don't remember hitting the wall. I think some others have. And every once in a while you'd hear somebody hit the partition in the middle. That was like a plywood partition. You couldn't see it was plywood. It was painted with nice trim. But, and then Ed would shake like he'd not just shake, he'd like wrench his body around and just just go into convulsions practically sometime. And like it was so extreme. It was the most extreme thing that happened in the Zendo. And I remember when Tatsugami came, he said, oh, well, he should just sit outside the Zendo. But we went, no, that's Ed, you know. I don't think that ever happened. But anyway, he had to deal with a lot there. So Ed worked with it, and he finally got over it. You know, he had an extremely painful childhood, and that came out in at various times, like in his shaking. But he persevered, and went on to become a very popular Zen teacher, and somewhat controversial at times. Yeah, he wasn't always completely PC, and that Zen world sometimes in America, you gotta be careful what you say. You might offend someone. So anyway, this has been a Cuke Audio mini podcast, a brief memory. Oh, I said in the prior mini podcast in which there was, in fact, the prior two mini podcasts were little excerpts from Carl Bielefeld's talk at Tassajara in 1999 on the Mountains and Rivers Sutra, or he calls it Mountains and Water Sutra. And I said I would just read the whole thing on this mini podcast, but I'm going to read it tomorrow for tomorrow's podcast. So if you want to hear that, see you then. Bye-bye. I'm D.C. Puba of Cuke Audio and Cuke Archives, coming to you from Sleepy Sanur with Doggett Bandita, Feline Cuchita, and dear lovely Katrinka. We're wishing you and yours and all of us a grand awakening.